Over 40 million Americans have student loan debt, and all of it taken together equals $1.7 trillion. Wow, I can't even imagine that number. So that's a lot of money, and that's also a lot of people. Paying off student loan debt is an important part of building wealth, which is why I am making this video, because this channel is all about building wealth. Now, debt is not just a numbers game, it also involves money psychology. That is why in the first part of this video we'll be talking about the psychology of debt, and then in the second part we'll have a look at the numbers and different methods to pay it back. So let's start with part 1, the psychology side of debt. First of all, I would like to note that student loan debt is the part of the good debt. So you invested in yourself, you increased your potential earning capacity, and in contrast to consumer debt like credit card debt, which is generally considered the bad debt, taking on a student loan is, let's call it, smart debt. So even if it gets overwhelming, that is something to remember, especially in hard times. Now, simultaneously, it's important to recognize that debt can put a strain on you in many different ways, and that it is something you actively need to take care of. Those strains can be a negative net worth, because debt is still a liability, and when calculating your net worth, this might lead to an overall negative net worth. It also will not, or at least should not, allow you to increase your lifestyle in a way that you maybe would like after finally starting to work a job and pay for the things that you would like to have. It can delay building wealth. It also might influence your career choice. For example, if you take on a job that pays better, but you might not enjoy it as much as another one. And studies have also shown that student loan debt can be associated with higher levels of stress, anxiety, and even depression. All the more reason to take action as fast as possible. If you already are in the stage where it stresses you a bit, it helps to acknowledge that feeling. You can even say it out loud. This is bad. I wish I would not be in this situation. I wish I wouldn't have taken on the student loan in the first place. If it's attached to fears, you can also acknowledge the fear. For example, I'm afraid I'm never going to be able to pay it back, or I'm afraid that I can never afford the life that I want to live. And once you have really identified them, these negative feelings can also become a big motivator. And in the next step, you can use it and turn it into an intention. For example, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I will take care of this now. This will bring you from the past into the present, and it allows you to take the next action steps. And that brings us to part 2 of the video, the numbers and the different methods. And the way I really see it is as a 4-step approach. Step 1 is to know exactly the numbers of your debt. This first step is very important because it gives you clarity. So I would recommend to list all of the loans you have, and also what kind of loan it is, like a federal loan or a private loan or a combination of both, how much you owe in each loan, so the outstanding balance, and not just a vague number but down to a cent. Then the interest rate you pay for each loan, and also if it's maybe a different interest rate for different times or different balances in one loan. Then what the minimal payment is of each loan and what conditions it comes with. And this will also be the most time-consuming part, but it will pay off to take the time to write it all down and also organize the paperwork so you can find it quickly if you need to. And if you've done that very accurately once, you'll save time later on. I think this first step can also be a scary one, because maybe for the first time you see the whole number. That can be shocking in the beginning, but at least you have a target now. And by having clarity, it might even be that you're a bit relieved. Then step number 2 is to decide on the strategy to pay it back. And I would say that mainly there are 2 different ways. Number 1 is to put everything you can towards the loans and then start saving and investing afterwards. This will allow you to pay your debt off as fast as possible and be debt-free sooner. Now, the second way would be to build wealth simultaneously. You can do that by defining what amount you can put aside, and then put 50% of that towards the loan and the other 50% you put towards savings. Of course, you can use any other possible percentage, like 70% for the debt and 30% for the savings. Now, this way avoids the situation where you abstain from a lot of things and you live very frugal and then still end up at a net worth of 0, and then basically start from scratch to save up. So this one will depend on personal preference and how you think you can deal with it best. By the way, I think that the option where you save at the same time only makes sense when you have the most aggressive approach. That means having a relatively high amount you put towards both, and also you take care of the highest interest rate loans first, because otherwise you will be better off paying the loans first. Then there are 2 methods to actually pay off the loans. Maybe you have already heard of them. It's the snowball method and the avalanche method. So in both cases you pay the minimum to every loan, and then with the snowball method you put all of your additional money into the loan with the small smallest balance first, because that way you will pay this one off the quickest and it will give you a win, and that can boost your motivation. And afterwards you pick the next one with the smallest balance, and so on until all the loans are paid back. Now with the avalanche method, you put all your additional money into the loan with the highest interest rate. That might not give you a quick win in case it just takes longer to pay it off, but it will save you money. And afterwards you pick the next one with the highest interest rates, and so on until all the loans are paid back. Now I want to be clear, the best version out of a numbers perspective is to put as much as you can towards your loans and to use the avalanche method. The other both methods, saving at the same time or using the snowball method, they're not as ideal from a numbers perspective, but they're easier psychologically. Now after step 1 and step 2, the hardest work is done. Step number 3 then is to automate the payments, according to all the information you gathered and also the strategy you picked, and then you can just set it up and concentrate on your life again. And step number 4 is to review your loan situation regularly. I recommend at least quarterly to check if anything changed. Maybe you then feel comfortable to take a more aggressive approach, or maybe something changed around the loans, then you can adapt if needed. And you also see your progress, and then you can take the win and celebrate. Now there is another point I wanted to discuss, and I think it's gonna be a provocative one. It's about forgiveness of the loans. Consider this as me throwing in some different ways to think about that. Now I personally think that you should not depend on forgiveness of the loans, and that is for different reasons. First of all, you're making yourself dependent on someone else, in this case the lender. And I dare say that a financial dependence like this is not a very nice place to be in. And by at least thinking about it and making a plan to pay it back, you're taking action and you're taking responsibility, and it just puts you in the seat of your own financial life. Another thought on this, imagine that you borrow someone some money and they do with the money that they wanted to, and then when they are due to pay you back, they kind of tell you, no, I don't want to pay it back. I'd rather wait until you forget about it. So how would that make you feel? And it's also this thought that you take something in a moment of need, and I think in some cases we're just really lucky that it's even possible, but then not giving it back when you actually could. So that is a bit of a moral or society-like thinking of this. And another thought I had on this was regarding my own psychology, because to wait for the forgiveness of the loan or to get the loan forgiven means to get something for free that wasn't really supposed to be for free. And I would probably ask myself if this would teach me the wrong lesson, because there's not a lot of things in this world that you get for free. But anyway, those are just my 2 cents. And of course it hugely depends on the individual situation. For example, if there are student loan possibilities that forgive the loan after you've worked in a certain job for several years, that's a great thing because it's still transactional. So the state or whoever needs people who work in that job, and to get that they pay for university. So if it works like that, it's great. If however the forgiveness is not part of the student loan debt in the first place, I would not hope for something magical to happen that this loan is gonna be forgiven. I would at least make a plan and try to pay it off, because otherwise it's just this Damocles sword hanging over you for a long period of time. So yeah, maybe I could give you a few different perspectives on this, and I think it nags on your peace of mind. Either way, if you are now looking for ways to spend less money in order to put more against your debt, I recommend this video next. Thank you for watching, and I hopefully see you in the next video. Bye bye.